DOYU and HUYA will be releasing their earnings for the second quarter of 2021 on the 17th of August. With all the volatility that we've been seeing over the last few months, people are now wondering exactly what can we expect from DOYU and HUYA. Stick around to find out all the latest news and expectations, and also please smash the like button to help out the channel. For those of you who don't know, DOYU and HUYA currently control about 80% of China's game streaming market. Tencent, who is a majority shareholder in both companies, wanted to merge them together, but that was denied by China's market regulation body. China also started cracking down on tech companies earlier in 2021, and as a result, companies like DOYU and HUYA have dropped massively in price. Plus, there was the fear of Chinese stocks being delisted from US stock exchanges. Since the start of the year, DOYU has dropped by 68% and HUYA has dropped by 47%. The big question now is whether the current price is a good entry point. I personally think so, and in fact, if we look at DOYU, the company currently trades for the cash on its books. At the same time, they're not making a profit, but their net loss is tiny, and they're expected to be profitable again next year. However, let's first look at what analysts have said recently. One thing that we want to see is analysts having raised their earnings and revenue estimates for the next quarter. An even better sign is if they have raised estimates less than 30 days before the earnings release. Unfortunately, DOYU has seen nothing but reduced estimates. 6 analysts have reduced their earning estimates and 7 analysts have reduced their revenue estimates. Currently, DOYU's expected earnings are minus $0.06 per share, and their expected revenue is $354.7 million. On the other side, HUYA has seen some increases, but they've mostly seen decreases. One analyst has increased their earnings estimate, while 9 analysts have decreased it. Also, 2 analysts have increased their revenue estimates, while 8 have decreased them. Currently, HUYA's expected earnings are $0.14 per share, while their expected revenue stands at $439.9 million. What does this tell us? Well, Wall Street is most likely expecting an earnings miss from both DOYU and HUYA. If you think about it, it makes sense. The economy has been reopened, people are no longer staying as much indoors, they're more likely to spend their money on something outside of gaming and streaming. The second quarter is also typically the slowest for these type of companies, and the fourth is typically the strongest. So, overall, it makes sense that we can expect a relatively weak quarter. However, these estimates are not all bad given the reopening of the economy. Yes, earnings are expected to be lower, but revenues are expected to stay flat for DOYU and increase for HUYA. I'm not gonna lie, it's not the best expectation, but it makes sense after both companies had a really strong year. However, some investors are no longer bullish on the companies. Since April, Katie Wood's ARK fund has sold almost all of its shares in HUYA. Jim Simmons, a famous hedge fund manager, sold most of his DOYU and HUYA holdings in February around the peak of their price. Plus, recently, Chinese state media has criticized gaming and called it spiritual opium, opium of the soul, and so on. Obviously, a crackdown on gaming will negatively affect game streaming stocks like DOYU and HUYA. However, there hasn't been any legislation or official investigation, it's just an article, although even Tencent have started calling for a ban on gaming for children under 12 years old. That's crazy, absolutely crazy, but that's where China is right now. It looks like Tencent are trying to stay on the good side of the Chinese government, and Tencent is pretty much the biggest player in mobile games and gaming in China. To me, it seems like there won't be any crackdown of the gaming industry, but you never know with China. Alright, so what will happen with DOYU and HUYA on the 17th of August? Well, I don't have a crystal ball, so I have no clue what will happen. However, I know what can happen, and I personally think that the most likely scenario is for both stocks to jump in price if we see a good earnings beat coupled with revenue beat. The earnings beat needs to be at least 20% and the revenue beat could be 10%, but it needs to be double digits. HUYA may hit between $13 and $14.5, maybe even $16, whereas DOYU may go up anywhere between $4.5 and $6.5. The second scenario is them beating their earnings without beating their revenue. In that case, we could see a smaller jump in price. Finally, if we see an earnings miss, it is very likely that stock prices will drop. However, at this point, both stocks are so incredibly undervalued that I don't believe they will drop by a lot. DOYU and HUYA have never traded this low. As I said, DOYU is literally trading for the cash on its books. At the same time, both companies tend to make big swings in price, so a big drop may happen, but it's hard to put an expected support level when they've never traded this low. Then, in terms of guidance, neither DOYU nor HUYA provide a full year guidance, so we cannot tell what results they are expecting themselves, and we need to rely completely on the analysts for that. The bad thing is that analysts and investors are more likely to get scared by a miss, but it also means that we may see some massive jumps in price if DOYU and HUYA provide better than expected results. Finally, regardless of what happens on this earnings call, I still believe that DOYU and HUYA provide an amazing long-term opportunity. I've put a link to my detailed analysis of these companies on the top right, but essentially, both of them are positioned to profit from the growth in China's game streaming market. As I mentioned before at the start of the video, they hold 80% of the market. 80%! Their future is bright, in my opinion, and it's important to not confuse a drop in their stock price with a failing business. Their business is doing okay, and it has the potential of doing amazing in the future. So, these are my 10 cents, no pun intended, on DOYU and HUYA's upcoming earnings. What do you think? Will they smash their earnings or will they fail? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and share it with your friends. Thanks for watching and I will talk to you soon.